Hi, this is Robert Polenic, the owner of Brutal Iron Gym. I just finished up a leg day. I'm worn out, exhausted. It was excellent. But I thought in today's video I would share some tips from each of the exercises that I did. We're going to be looking at lying leg curls, then barbell stiff leg deadlifts, and finishing with hack squats. So for each exercise, I'll give you a few tips so that way you can maximize your results from those movements while staying safe. The first exercise we're going to look at is the lying leg curls. What I want to focus on this one is the angle your feet should be in, the pros and cons of whether they're straight, flared out, or flared in. And then we're going to be talking about our hip positioning to make sure that we are controlling the movement entirely through our hamstrings and not letting our lower back get involved. Here you can see my feet are straight while I'm performing the hamstring curls. This helps target the hamstring as a blend. The inside, the outside, the middle, everything's getting targeted equally. If you flare your toes outward, that'll target the outside portion of the hamstrings. And if you were to flare your toes inward, that'll target the inner portion. 99.9% of the time, you just want to leave your feet straight, so you're targeting the hamstring as a whole. When viewed from the side, you want to see that your hips stay in place. As you pull your feet up, you don't want to see your hips roll forward, which would indicate that your lower back is contracting. That will take away from the growth of the hamstring, as the lower back is trying to help create some of the movement within the machine. We want to keep the movement entirely in the hamstrings. Our hips should stay stable and in place. One of the ways that I like to create challenge within the hamstrings, but without losing proper technique, is to use drop sets. As I would reach fatigue, rather than breaking in my form, I would pause, reduce the weight, and then keep going again. The weight reduction will allow you to perform more repetitions while maintaining proper technique. So you can push your hamstring further into muscular fatigue and failure without losing the technique over involving a muscle that you don't want to grow, or over involving a muscle such as the lower back that when it gets involved, it can become strained and uncomfortable. So using a drop set, and you can see here I'm actually doing multiple drops, is a great way to push the muscle further into fatigue and failure, but without having to lose proper technique in order to do so. The second exercise is going to be barbell stiff leg deadlifts. I'll show you the videos of that while I'm doing it here on the rack. The main focus with this is going to be making sure we have heel pressure. So I'm going to teach you a little trick on wiggling your toes. We want to make sure our feet are the right width, and we want to make sure that we are slow and controlled in focusing on a hamstring stretch, not just how far down the bar goes. Here is one of my first warm-up sets. In this set, what you can pay attention to and make note of is that I'm going to be maintaining heel pressure throughout the movement and aiming to keep my shins vertical. This allows me to best target my hamstrings and glutes, which is the focus of this movement. So as I go up and down in the movement, I'm going to maintain heel pressure. I'm going to maintain that my shins remain vertical throughout the movement. I want to focus on my hips stretching back so I can stretch into the hamstrings, and then squeezing the hamstrings and glutes forward in order to create barbell movement. The key is thinking of your hips going forward and backward rather than thinking of the bar going up and down. If you focus on what the hips are doing, the movement will be correct. Part of finding the right heel pressure is ensuring that you can wiggle your toes. So you can see I'm doing that there. And you want to have the right width in your stance so that you can get a good stretch through the hamstrings without your lower back rounding. And here in this angle, you'll see that vertical shin. The focus of keeping the shin vertical is so that you can maximally load the upper hamstrings and glutes. If the shin were to angle backwards, it would turn more into a stiff leg deadlift and you get more hamstrings. By remaining with a vertical shin, you get a good blend of hamstrings and glutes in this movement. So you can play with shin angle to change the emphasis of whether you want the hamstrings exclusively or a blend of the hamstrings and glutes.
The third and final exercise is going to be the hack squat. I want to talk about foot placement and a little bit of external knee rotation to make sure that we balance the recruitment of the quadriceps in movements such as hack squat and leg press. And then we're also going to talk about contracting out of the bottom of the press rather than just bouncing out. We want to make sure it's a purposeful contraction so we get the greatest amount of muscle recruitment, therefore muscle damage and growth.
When performing an exercise such as the hack squat, leg press, or any compound leg machine, we want to maintain a slight external rotation pressure of the knees to ensure we get a blend of the quadriceps. You can see here I'm going to rotate in just to show the visual difference of having the knees rotated outward. You do not need to rotate inward. I wouldn't recommend you doing that, but having that slight external rotation will help ensure that you get a blend of the quadriceps and actually maximally recruit that outer quadricep to produce that sweep effect. When we're driving out of the bottom, we want to make sure we're doing that with a muscular contraction, not a bounce. So no matter how hard these movements become in the working sets, you always want to have control out of the bottom and contract and drive instead of bouncing.
There you go. Some great tips you can use for your next leg day. If you have any questions or you want to request any topics for videos, just shoot us an email at brutalirongym@gmail.com. You can also visit our website where you'll find our podcast. We have a daily podcast, over 1,900 episodes. We talk about nutrition, training, mindset, and listener Q&A. So you can always submit a topic for videos, submit a topic for podcasts, and you can find the different services we offer on our website, www.brutalirongym.com. Okay, give these tips a try, and good luck.